Evening, everybody. I wanted to get this video out earlier, but things come up. I had to clean, hence the ratty old shirt, because when I'm cleaning, I tend to wear something that I don't care if I spill bleach on it. And I haven't gotten a shower yet, which I'm doing after this video, because I smell from the gym. And kind of depleted. The dieting pretty hard. Have a goal in mind, determined to make it. It's going to be miserable getting there. It's been miserable so far, but a lot of shit's been miserable, so what the hell, at least this is for a reason. What I wanted to talk about today is something important for those of us recovering from narcissistic abuse, and it is how to use your righteous anger in your favor. So, for those of us that have been through narcissistic abuse, you're going to have bouts of righteous anger. Like, once you figure out what narcissistic abuse is and the tactics that have been used against you, a lot of stuff's going to come back. A lot of stuff's going to become clear. Things that happened when you were young that you couldn't make sense of at the time. Like, you knew it didn't seem right. Because as I've said, and a lot of other people who talk about narcissistic abuse say, even when you're young that something's not right, but you can't put it into words. Like, you don't know, it's unexplainable. You think whatever's happening, like especially if it's your parents, that it's something like unique to them. It's something that nobody else would understand. And if you tried to explain it back then, nobody would. Especially, when I was a kid in the 90s, this wasn't really talked about at all. You talked about narcissism. They would have went to the Greek god Narcissus, but regardless. So if you grew up with a narcissistic parent, or perhaps two, you know what it's like for them to try to control your path in life and try to take your identity, as I spoke about in an earlier video, and basically steal the things that make you you, and them trying to make you into something and someone that you are not, usually for the sake of conformity. Because, to a narcissist, you're a reflection on them, because narcissists tend to have this forever high school mentality, particularly where I grew up, where, their whole life is trying to fit in and be at the cool table. That never ends for them. It's like they have no identity. It's all about, well, look at me, I have this, and I have this. And it's weird, because the narcissist, that only matters to that immediate circle of people. Like, in my case, in Chester County, Pennsylvania, like my mother, my aunts, all of them, it only mattered, what the people around here think. Like, they could, how can I explain this? It's all about the people here and what they think, particularly the baby boomer generation. Well, mostly the baby boomer generation, or those younger that have been, anointed by a baby boomer into the good old boys club. But they don't care about anything or anyone. Anything that you do outside of this area doesn't matter. That's why you're not allowed to become things like professional firefighters, because they don't have that here, and if it's not here. Or, if you, as I did years ago, if you're walking the runways in New York, it doesn't matter because it's not here. You can't brag about it here. You're on the dean's list in college, it doesn't count because it's not here. Now, honor roll in high school, far more important. Who cares about college? It's just something you do to say you did it, and of course to put money in baby boomers' pockets, and then you go work at Walmart or you cut grass because you exist to serve the baby boomers and your good old boy overlords. Yeah. But as you get older, you figure out what was holding you back. And of course, narcissistic abuse will make you doubt yourself. It'll make you aim lower. It'll think you can't do any better, that you are resigned to this fate, or, you'll think that there's only one way out, as I did at a time when I was working a job I despised 7 days a week for shitty money, being told how great it was. They could never tell me why. That's the other thing. Narcissists will always be very vague. They'll tell you, well, this is how it is. Well, why? Or this is a good thing. Why? What makes it good? Or because I said so. Oh, I said that part out loud. Fuck. That's the narcissist. So knowing yourself and what you want, and knowing that these people do not have your interest in mind, that they've been manipulating you and holding you back your whole life. It's good motivation when you're trying to do something that they don't want you to have. It gives you that much more drive because you know deep down what you're capable of, and especially if you've extracted yourself at least partially, if you're at best no contact, but even if you're low contact, or you've opened up and become close with people that aren't in any way connected to the narcissist, or they're flying monkeys, or that whole network, like in my case, people outside of this county, which I've done many times when I was fortunate enough to have jobs outside of here. Unfortunately, those were, I was either bullied and hazed from day one that continued until the last day, or the earlier ones were unstable jobs during the recession era, and places kept having layoffs, and obviously the newest hires are first on the list. But you know what you're capable of, and you know they don't want you to have it, so that gives you even more drive not only because it's what you want, and you're striving for your own happiness, your own success, but it's also, you can use that rage to keep pushing yourself when you feel like it's just out of reach and you feel like you can't push anymore. You can get in your head and be like, how pissed are they going to be? Now, you're not going to get to see it. The narcissists, they'll make passive-aggressive comments. I mean, when I got hired the second time in Arlington a few years back, my mom's sister and her son and all that were like, I know I've talked about this before, but I'm going to go over it a little bit again in case you're a newer subscriber. So, they hated the fact that I got hired there, because in their mind, you don't leave this area. Firefighters are volunteers. You don't get to make a career out of it. Well, yeah, that's actually how it works. There's, career fire departments all over the place. Actually, every city, any city, be it Dallas, L.A., Philly, D.C., New York. You get the picture. Miami. Cities are all paid. It's been that way for, I don't know, I'd say over 100 years in most places. Certainly since post-World War II, and even most surrounding, like, suburban counties, assuming that fire and police work on a county level, which is how it works in most states like Virginia and Maryland and New York and everywhere that isn't Pennsylvania. But, then they make up their arbitrary rules like, well, you didn't volunteer. It's like, I was a EMT for 3 years here. Like, well, but you didn't fight a fire. Well, I was a junior firefighter. I did exterior fire work because I was under 18, so I wasn't old enough to go in or have the training to do so. And I'm like, but, and 70% of calls in the modern fire service are EMS based. And, even that 30% that is fire, I've done some of that work. And also the biggest part is they love their double standards. This is really why I'm telling the story, to give a perfect double standard example. So, even though how many of you at the beginning of a career can honestly say, well, I have years of experience doing 70, well, let's say 75, because I did have, exterior fire experience, so that counts as something. How many people starting a career can say, I have 3+ years doing 75% of what this job entails? You gotta, like, and I'm like, what? So people like, Philly's the closest major city to me. So I'm like, what? So, guys that want to be Philly firefighters that grew up in Philly, which is the majority of the Philly Fire Department, like over 2/3 of that fire department are born and bred Philly people. I'm like, so what? The Philly Fire tells them, what you're supposed to do is get in shape, take fire science classes at night to work towards your degree, because you'll need that for promotions eventually, not to get started. Get in shape because you got to pass the physical ability test. Start as an EMT if you can. That's what they tell you. I know, I've asked multiple times, but in their mind, it's like, no, they go to, I'm like, what? They're supposed to, and there's a residency requirement there. You have to live in Philly if you want to be a Philly firefighter. But in their mind, what they're supposed to do is move out here to the boonies and become a volunteer where, maybe they'll get 2 fire calls a year, like actual working fires, not like a room and contents. And that's assuming that they're able to go to it. Because remember, this is volunteer, so they'd have to have a paying job elsewhere. And that call might come in while they're at that paying job. That may not be anywhere near, the firehouse. Get it? But they just make stuff up because they're narcissists, and they don't want you to have what you earn because it's outshining, the Prince of Wales, my mom's sister's son, who could have been a paid firefighter in his youth, but he's like, oh, I can't leave this area. Why? I mean, this is, he is married now, but when he was a young man in the 90s, he wasn't. He has no kids to this day. It's like, why couldn't you? What was holding you back? There's paid fire departments, little ones, but there's a bunch within like an hour of here. And the 90s was a good time to get hired. But anyway, so, that they were all bent out of shape because I did something that I wasn't allowed to do because it goes against the status quo, because they want me to mow grass, which was going, I had two choices in life. It was to get out of that industry and never go back, or, how do I say this for YouTube? It involved a 38 caliber pill, which I would have took the 38 caliber pill. Yeah. But they to this day are like, they want me to go back to that. So I see that as they want me dead, because, that life isn't worth living. Working a job you hate 7 days a week, 60 plus hours a week for 40 hours pay with ex-cons and high school dropouts and drug addicts. No thanks. No sense of purpose or anything. So, I give that an example. Oh, I forgot the double standard. I got off track. So my younger cousin, who's 2 years younger than me, he became an EMT when he was old enough because he saw how much, it was good for me, and he wanted to be a cop. But he, unlike me, I had experience on the fire side. He was never a security guard. He was never military, whether reserve or active. He was never like, you go down to the beach, they hire extra cops, like bike patrol, like bicycle. He never did any of that, like never even shot a gun. And he decided he wanted to be a cop. And, he went through the exam process and all that and got it. And I'm like, well, why is that okay? Well, it's different. Yeah, it's different because it's in Chester County. The guy who had zero experience or relatable experience in the career he was going into, that was perfectly acceptable because it's within the cult. It's status quo. That's okay. The guy who's going to another state who has experience in 75% of the duties he'd be doing at the job, not acceptable because, makes Prince of Wales look bad. So, it just makes the Prince of Wales, look like a mama's boy who could never leave home. So that's the double standards. I bring it up because most likely when your narcissist is talking down to your goals or your aspirations, you're going to face similar double standards. But another key point to me bringing up that story, know that it's not what you're trying to do. It's not what your goal is. It's the fact that you, the black sheep, are the one trying to do it. They would fully support, the golden child or somebody else, some good little, narcissist worshiper to do it. So they want you broke, they want you miserable, and they want you within their grasp, under their control. You have to remember that. And you have to push yourself for whatever you want, no matter the odds. You have to go all or nothing, which as an INFJ is no problem for me because that's my default setting, all or nothing. So keep that in mind, that you can use, when you're working towards something that the narcissist doesn't want you to have, and it may be something difficult to obtain, remember all the years of happiness that you lost because the narcissist manipulated you, the narcissist bullied you, the narcissist lied to you, the narcissist sabotaged you to keep you the black sheep, to keep you miserable, to keep you within their grasp. In some cases, the narcissist may even orchestrated to have things taken away from you that you earned on your own. Been through that too. Keep that in mind. Keep in mind what you earned and was stolen, perhaps, or keep in mind what could have been if the narcissist wasn't in your life. Because see, those of us, in the position of the black sheep, it's most people, don't have somebody who can just set them up for life in whatever they're trying to do, unless they're good old boy, the good old nepotism, cronyism thing. But that's not most people. But most people are lucky enough that it's neutral. Like, they have to put in all the work and effort to get what they want, but nobody's trying to get in their way to stop them. People like us, listen to this channel, and myself, of course, we had people, not only did nobody help us, people were actively getting in our way, trying to sabotage us. So even if we had, as I did, your own merit to get where you wanted to be, there were people who wanted to take that away from you for no other reason than they don't want you to have it, because you are you, and you cannot transcend above the golden child, no matter how lazy the golden child is. Keep that in mind. Let that fuel your rage. Let that fuel your determination for whatever it may be. I am on a crazy diet. It's not healthy. It's, just techniques I learned from bodybuilders, and they're not healthy. I know that. Nothing illegal, though. Just dangerous. But I'm running a pretty big caloric deficit, exercising twice a day, fasted cardio first thing in the morning. I'm hypoglycemic, so that can be a little dangerous. But I am determined to have the physique that I want by the 27th of August, because there's a big networking thing with all the Philly casting directors, and my agent told me I have to be there, and I understand. But, in my case, I have to have something to set me apart, because there are going to be a lot of people there, people in my acting class that have drama school degrees, that have experience. I don't. I have modeling experience. What can I rely on to set me apart? I got to have a better physique than everybody else. I got to be able to walk out there as if I was walking on a men's physique stage and just be shredded. That's what I got to do. That's the card I have to play. It's like, oh, he looks good and he's fit. That's a big plus, because the acting thing, I'm just winging it. I mean, I'm doing well in class, but at the end of the day, I don't have any experience, because, well, I never tried, So, we'll see how that goes. And remember, with your goals, even if the narcissist finds out what you're trying to do, be vague. Never tell them specifics. They will use it against you. But know that rage, that righteous, justifiable rage that you feel because of the abuse that was done to you, usually for decades, you can use that to your favor. Let it drive you. Let it push you. Do not fight it. You have every right to feel that anger and that rage. And if you harness it right, it can be used to your advantage in certain circumstances. So remember to trust your intuition. If you think you can do something, but the narcissist is telling you not, it probably means you can. They just don't want you to have it. And don't sell out your own personal integrity trying to please a narcissist, because as I've said before, and I'm going to keep saying it, narcissists can never be pleased. Never. You please them, that's just like a heroin addict. Like, boom, they got a fix. It'll last a little bit, but they're going to need it again. So if you haven't, subscribe. It's free. Follow me on Instagram, because that's important for my career, and it's also free. And if you can, please support the channel. Links are in the About section. And there's a super thanks button. Oh, and check out my TikTok too. That link's in the About section too. And I'll be back probably tomorrow.